And welcome back to Interesting Stuff. This is the homeschool supplement where we dive into topics that perhaps wouldn't normally be on your average curriculum, but topics from which we can learn something. Nonetheless, today we're looking at ancient justice. So the year is 399 BC, almost 400 years before Christ. The philosopher Socrates is on trial, accused of impiety and corrupting the youth of Athens by questioning the traditional wisdom, values, and gods of the Athenians. Yes, asking questions got you into trouble even way back then. Athenians, I am not going to argue for my own sake, but for yours, that you may not sin against the gods by condemning me, who am his gift to you. If you kill me, you will not easily find a successor, so I advise you to spare me. Was he arrogant? Was he telling the truth? Perhaps the answer to both of those is yes. We'll never know completely, though, because the records of these historical events are sparse. But what he was doing was pleading his case. He was pleading for his life in front of a jury. And although in the modern world we think of juries as small groups, in fact, what is a jury? It is, in fact, a body of people, typically 12, who are sworn to give a verdict in a legal case on the basis of evidence submitted in a court. Yes, basically a group of people who get to decide. And what is the role of the jury? Well, in both criminal and civil trials, it is to determine questions of fact. The jury's role in a criminal trial is to determine whether or not the accused is guilty, and in a civil trial, it is the jury's role to decide the faults and the damages that need to be paid. So basically, you have in court systems a choice of being judged by a judge or judged by a jury. Now, both have advantages and disadvantages. I was once working with a group of lawyers who said that it's very easy for a skillful lawyer to manipulate a jury. Yet, at the same time, when there's only one person at the top, it is theoretically quite simple to corrupt them. So, hard choice either way, really. Back to our story. The Athenians relied on the initiative of individuals to bring cases to court, even for offences against the state. But only Athenian citizens could conduct suits in court. Women, outsiders, and former slaves had to be represented by a citizen. Most cases were heard in local courts known as dicasteria. That's probably pronounced terribly wrong. But murder and serious religious offences received special treatment. Pretty interesting. Lawyers, as such, did not exist in those times, and the length of speeches given were strictly limited. Water clocks were used to make sure that people did not exceed their allotted time. Now, in the story of Socrates, and if you want a bit of background on that, Socrates was one of the three great Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. And yet, for many years in Western culture, these people were completely forgotten about. It wasn't until the saved records of what happened in southern Europe, which had been destroyed in various wars and invasions. These materials were exported to the Middle East and saved there. And as scholars began to study the works that they found in the Middle East, they began to learn more about these initial philosophers and how they viewed the world. If you want a starting point, perhaps Plato's Republic is one of the best places. So swinging back to our court case regarding Socrates, the plaintiff or the state received 280 votes and Socrates 220. And that's because the juries in ancient Athens were absolutely huge. They varied in size from 200 to 1,000 members, which sounds a little bit like groupthink and mob rule to me, but everything everything starts somewhere. Everything big starts small, right? Um, so Socrates lost. He was condemned to death, and 30 days later, the executioner arrived at his house with a drink poisoned with hemlock. The philosopher drank it and died a few minutes later. And that was ancient justice. Wow. But what Socrates did leave us with is a bit of a legacy, is a bit of an unusual outlook on life, which is the outlook of a philosopher that we should perhaps accept nothing on face value and question everything. In fact, Socrates himself wrote that you can't really teach people anything. You can only make them think. You can only draw out of them the wisdom which is latent within them. And by doing so, hopefully you help them to open their eyes and to see the world through a different lens, perhaps. One of my favorite Socrates quotes is, "If you don't get what you want, you suffer. And if you get what you don't want, you suffer. And even when you get exactly what you want, you still suffer, because you can't hold on to it forever. Your mind is your predicament. It wants to be free of change, free of pain, free of obligations of life and death. But change is law, and no amount of pretending will alter that reality." So, court systems are different, obviously. They function differently in different countries, and they've evolved over time. Think about things yourself. How do you make your decisions? Do you base it just on information from one person on one source? Or do you gather information from different people, from different sources? Do you go right to the source and check the source material? All of these elements extremely important when puzzling together the pieces of any case. So that's it for today. Think about what I've said. Check out the questions under the video if you want. And let me know what else you'd like to hear about. Let me know what else you'd like to be introduced to. Let me know what else you'd like me to talk about. Or maybe you'd just like me to be quiet and shut up. Who knows? Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you a fantastic day. And remember that over the years, we've worked very, very hard to, as a civilization and society, get where we are today. And let's continue the same journey into a better and brighter future. That's my positive message for today. Take it with you. Have a good one.